Okay. We're going to continue on with the life cycles and how that affects our personal financial planning. So we're going to categorize them. So for instance, a single person with children is going to have financial needs different than somebody that is single and retired. So a single person with children is going to have financial needs such as preparing for college maybe and putting food on the table. Whereas a single person who's retired may want to spend their money traveling or on hobbies. Okay, so scholars recommend the life cycle as the initial tool when evaluating a family unit. So the scholars believe that financial behavior does conform to whatever life cycle that you might be in. So in other words, you as single almost adults are going to abide by financial behaviors that are in your life cycle. So they also that recognize that there are some faults. So we want to make sure that we plan and do goals. So if goal planning is not strongly emphasized, focuses more on the here and now. So that's some of the faults that are associated with the family life cycle. If you don't plan, no matter what life cycle you're in, you're not going to be successful. Okay, so the personal financial process. So it begins with budgeting. So budgeting finances. So you need to figure out how much money you make. So you're going to calculate your income sources. So that might be, your income sources might be if you have a job, obviously that's going to be an income source. If you get an allowance, if your parents give you money, then that's an income source. So you're going to calculate all the ways that you get money. Okay, if someone owes you money and they're paying you back, that's a source of income. So if you have money in a savings account or money in a checking account, that is sources of money also. So then you're going to calculate your expenses, fixed and variable, and we'll get into more about what fixed are as opposed to variable. But you're going to, if you pay rent, that's going to be a fixed expense. If you pay your telephone bill, utilities would include electricity, your water bill, your gas bill, those things that you have to keep a house running. And then also insurance. You have to have car insurance, that's a law. So if you own a car, you have to have car insurance. But you also, if you need to have homeowners insurance or renter's insurance, so that if there's a fire or somebody steals something in your house, then it's insured. And then food. We all have to have food to sustain us. So everybody can't live without food, so you need to build that as an expense in your budget. So you need to make sure that you record everything accurately. If you don't, then your budget is not going to work. So this is extremely important. So you need to track your expenses and your income. And initially, when you start building a budget, then that's what you need to do, is figure out where you're spending your money. It's easier to determine where your income comes from, but when it comes to figuring out and tracking your expenses, it's a little bit more difficult, because you use your debit card and you go to the grocery store, you go to buy gas and you get some extra, go in and get a drink and a snack, and so it's a little bit harder to track your expenses, but you need to do it in order to build a budget and stick to it. Okay, so you need to, if you pay taxes, you need to make sure you pay taxes on time. If you find errors, then you need to take care of those. So correctly budget finances. Okay, so budgets are very important. They assist in planning financial situations throughout the year. So if you have a budget, then you're not going to be surprised if something happens, because you've budgeted it in for emergencies. It acts as a control mechanism in regard to the way money is spent. So if you have a budget, then it helps you control your spending. So you know that if you've only budgeted $100 for eating out and you're tracking your expenses and you know you're very close to that, then you may want to eat at home as opposed to if you're wanting to stay within your budget. So it helps you control what you're spending. So it also allows you to see the big picture. What have I got coming in? What have I got going out? Because too many people spend more than they make. There is a lot of adults that spend more than they make, so they end up living paycheck to paycheck. And living paycheck to paycheck means that you're broke before you get paid the next time. So you're always behind. So if you have a budget and you're tracking your expenses and you're tracking your income, then hopefully you'll have a little left over for savings. So in the long run, it's going to help you be successful and not be surprised by an emergency. So again, it increases your debt, increases your savings. So it reduces your debt and increases your savings by sticking to a budget. Okay, so what if your expenses exceed income? So what that means is at the end of the month, if you're tracking your expenses and then you're tracking your income and your expenses are more than your income, right? So what do? You cut down. You don't eat out as much. So you cut down the things that you can. So for instance, if it's a fixed expense such as your rent, you can't change that. But some things you can change. Maybe your electricity bill is too high because you're keeping the thermostat at 68. Maybe you could raise it to 72, and that's going to save some money there on your electric bill. So things that you can do to save money for the next month is what you need to do. You may want to bargain shop, get the best prices available. So the two ways you can, if your expenses exceed income, the two ways is to cut down on expenses, cut back on expenses, or increase your income. So it's a little bit harder to increase your income, but some of the things you might do is get another job, ask for more hours at work. And then it says invest in stacked certificates of deposit, CDs, and we'll get into what CDs are in a later chapter. You may want to consolidate debt with a consumer loan or a home equity loan. And we'll get into loans and debt also. Okay, so what if your income exceeds your expenses? This is what we want to see happen, that you have more income left over at the end of the month than you had expenses. So your income is higher than your expenses. So what do you do now? So you've got extra money. Are you just going to go out and spend it? You shouldn't. That's money that you can invest in order to make you more money. And that's how people become wealthy, is they don't spend as much as they make and they invest the difference. So it lists some of the things that you might invest in. Certificates of deposit, and I'll explain what a certificate of deposit is in a later chapter. 401k and IRA plans, again, an investment opportunity for when you work and you have a job that offers that, and we'll go into detail in that also. Mutual funds and the stock market. So mutual funds we'll get into a little bit, and the stock market also. Okay, so that ends that chapter. So the next chapter we'll get into more details on what some of these investments are. Right, thank you.